Hello, I'm Bryan Kromrey of Brickhouse Games. I come making this video today to display Tectonia, give a little overview of it, and my thoughts on the game. This is a Kickstarter game that is designed by Hagen Behr that he tried to bring to Kickstarter to self-publish in 2018, about 2 years ago. And I saw this game. I was enamored by some of the mechanics, especially the tectonic plates concept. And even though he failed in that campaign, I saw that he wanted to relaunch. I reached out to him. I told him that he needed some English-speaking reviewers. And I offered, even though I'm not a reviewer, to come in and review the game. I've played it 5 times now. And give my thoughts and hopefully reach out to you potential backers and share what's so nice and unique and fun about this game. So I'm going to bring it down to the table, show you some of the concepts and mechanics, and then I'll come back and give my final thoughts. Alright, we're back now with the board laid out and a few of the tiles. As you can see, there's going to be lots of tiles potentially in the game. But I just wanted to show you some of the tiles and how they work. So you can see here that they are all uniquely shaped. They form a nice beautiful art board and they kind of fit together fairly well. And then there's also these mountain tiles that are for when the tile's mountain instead of grassland. Just wanted to show size of the board. It is pretty large. So now we're going to show the rest of the components with a little bit zoomed in here focus. Alright, so the core aspect of the game of Tectonia, as you can see here, is these tiles which not only form a unique board every time you play initial setup, but then they consistently change throughout the game, some going to sea, some going to mountains, and so they're going to be removed, and some of them are going to be added throughout the course of the game. And it definitely constantly changes the board state, which is what I thought very interesting and mechanic for a combat dudes on a board game. So how that works is throughout the game, players are going to be doing tectonic actions where you're going to be drawing 2 cards. The first card's going to show you where it is on the board, which I think is a very nice feature. So you could easily see that this is 31 here, right above this 42. So you could see there this is 31. So you can see it numbered right there. So it shows you which tile is going to be changing on the board. And then you draw a second card, and then that card tells you if it's going up or down. Sea always goes up, mountain always goes down. Grassland either goes up or down. So there's the 3 states of either sea level, grass, or mountain. So it's kind of the random terraforming, and that's going to consistently change the board. And players can also take a player-driven tectonic action where they can choose which tile on the board. Say if I really wanted to remove this 42, I can put a marker on it, and then it later comes off the board. The different creatures in the game, we'll start going over those. The base units the players start with are the warrior, which is illustrated, again, beautifully done artwork here of the warrior. This is the battle card for the warrior. It's going to show what bonuses you get when you play it in combat and the different sides of the dice. Warriors roll red dice here, and you can see the different symbols, and they are engraved. And I'm not sure if this is just obviously well done for prototype artwork and cards and dice, but I'd be happy with this quality. So you have these warriors, and then Hagen also sent me some resin sample miniatures to show what they're going to look like. There we go, there's a little bit better. So you can see here that very well sculpted, looks very nice. I'd be pretty happy with these miniatures. And these make up the warriors here, make up the core of your army. And then the other base unit that you have access to at the start of the game is the scout here. So there's also some other units, there's not too many, so I'm just going to show them right now. There's also the horseman, which you can unlock with a building. So you can see, again, very nice. And then there's the archer, which is Pretty cool pose. And then the shield bear, you can see here. Awesome looking shield. Got a sword as well. Very defensive, good, very strong, good unit. And then if the campaign goes well, I believe Hagen's trying to add 2 other additional units through stretch goals perhaps. And this one is a lizard guy. Very awesome. He's an offensive juggernaut. Basically, the only way to get these is if one of your tiles that you have control over on the board is going through Tectonic. So if someone puts their marker on the board, whether it's random or player driven, if it's one of your tiles on your turn, you're able to recruit these if you take a recruit action. So again, very nice. And the final one is the stone line, which is pretty cool. Looks very nice. And these are unlocked if you have control of a mountain. Again, very nicely sculpted, and looking forward to seeing the game with those. My version just has meeples. It's an early prototype version. So combat in general, you're going to be having, obviously, I think Hagen's going to do these in player colors. And basically, whenever you go to attack, you're just going to, as if you're attacking a neighboring tile. If there's enemies there, you're going to be rolling a die per unit. So in this case, there's a blue die for a horseman, a scout's a white die, and a warrior's a red die. So you go ahead and grab those dice. You have to leave 1 back. So if you had another warrior, you could leave it back on the tile that you're attacking from. You're going to roll these dice. Your opponent selects up to 6 units as well, and they're going to be rolling their dice. So I'm not going to go too much in detail of the combat. I'm sure other videos and Hagen's rules will cover it, but essentially you're just going to roll dice, maybe add reinforcements, and then very quickly, it goes fairly quickly, and then players are going to essentially choose up to 2 battle cards, which they're going to play. These are battle cards that you can level up throughout the course of the game. So if you level up your warrior card, it gets some additional row there, and it adds a new die. And then the level 3 also not only adds a new die, but also adds a free shield to block a hit. It's pretty interesting, straightforward, and it gives you some mitigation to the dice, especially if you have a good diverse army. Essentially, since you could choose up to 2 different cards, if you have a good, again, diversity in army, you can choose 2 cards that you need to hopefully mitigate the dice and get the best effect that you're looking for. Players are going to be taking turns, and there's essentially 9 different cards. The 9th card here is essentially the first player card, and it's a very interesting mechanic where even though the first player goes first, they choose when they want to play this, but they have to play this before resetting. So if you played any game where you play a card that does actions and in turn order, then you have to play a card that goes to your discard, essentially like Concordia, that style, and then finally you get a reset card, which is here. Once you play this, you recover all your cards in your discard, and you do a random terraforming. So there's going to be like building and building, as you can see here. You just build a building on your turn. This is, you upgrade one of your battle cards. It requires 4 of your currency, and then 1 of your battle cards, which you get from winning a combat. So this is actually the enhanced combat card, so you can do an additional combat per round by paying 4. 2 lets you do a player driven, you choose terraforming on either one of your tiles or adjacent, and you can also move. So this is a very strong card, but it's going to cost you some currency. So again, that's the reset card. This is the basic attack card, and then we also have, if you want to form tribes, you slowly get territory throughout the game, and then you kind of form a tribe, which gives you additional currency whenever you collect. So you can either choose a size 4, 6, 7, or 8, and it gives you currency accordingly, more additional based on the size. And then once you form it, you can't reform it, so it's kind of an interesting mechanic there. And then obviously if you want to collect currency, there's the get income and then bonus for the tribes, and if you want to sell 2 battle cards. And then the other main one, obviously you're going to be recruiting units and their cost. Once the first player plays this, they actually put it in the player to their left, so then the next time whenever they shuffle their cards back into their hand, they're going to have to play the, basically pass their turn card. And it goes on clockwise and so on. So I think I've showed all the mechanics. I'm not showing any great detail, just trying to give you an overview of how it works. You're going to be moving across the board. You're going to be capturing these little X's that are on the board of other players. And you can play to either 3 or 4 if you want a short game or a long game. So if you get 3 of combined of your opponents, then you win the game. Good entry-level gateway dice checking game, but yet it has some strategy to it with which buildings you build, which units you recruit, where you put them on the board, also what tiles you terraform, which I think stands out from the genre itself. A lot of combat games, the board state gets stale. Not too many games prevent you from playing defensively, but seeing as the board constantly changes, it wraps around, so you can go around the outside to the other side. I'm just going to wrap up here and go back up top and show you my final thoughts. Alright, final thoughts time now for Tectonia. Well, I'm glad I reached out to Hagen. I mean, he had to pay for shipping. I received no compensation. I was just looking based on how interesting this game was, like how cool it would be to try it out, give him some feedback, offer him a review, and essentially try to reach out to backers and say, hey, look, this is a pretty interesting game. He's a first-time publisher, trying to publish what he clearly has put his heart and soul into. You could see it through every little thing. He's obviously put a good amount of money up front, making this his best quality product as he possibly can, just for the prototype to show us potential backers what kind of awesome game he's developed here, designed and developed. So you can see beautiful artwork on the rule book. He actually did change it to even look a little bit nicer with the blue, but this is an older prototype version. So the rule book, I'll start with there since I have it in my hand. It's clearly a little bit, I would say, it's not native English. Because clearly, he's German, and it's decently done. I mean, you can understand it. I would like to see a little bit clearer things. I had some questions, but he responded to me through email, got back to me fairly quickly, and answered any questions I had. Once you answer those few questions, it plays pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It gives you some good illustrations for battles, the battle cards. I mean, it gives you everything you really need to play the game. It even gives you some sample suggested setups, which is pretty awesome and interesting. But for this 3 to 4 player game, he advertises 3 to 4 hours, and if you play I would say that's the long game. If you play to 4 capture points instead of 3, I've played a game just this last week with the updated rules of 2 hours. So you could definitely 3 player game, 3 control points, 2 hours is possible. It's definitely a little bit, you can kind of plan out a little bit easier your path to victory, whereas 4 can be definitely you're in it for a little bit more of a long haul, and you get definitely more development. So it's there. It's not like the game is too short. You're going to be leveling up your units with these battle cards, and there's 7 different units. So you're definitely going to be having options which way you want to go. And they all play differently, which is definitely awesome to see that there's definitely some good replayability here. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. So let's just say that this is I have a good collection of a mostly Euro style combat game, some mixed in Ameritrash mechanics, but I'm typically more of a Euro player, but I wanted to have I like to have a few more Ameritrashy heavy theme, so some dice chucking games, and this would be one of them that I think is worthy of having on your shelf. So let's say there's a good amount of luck, but there's also a good amount of mitigation with the battle cards, which one you want to play, which ones you want to advance throughout the course of the game. it's definitely has that good variety. So if you're in between, if you like the hybrids, this is definitely one you should consider. The core mechanic of the tectonic plates, I have to say, alone makes this game stand out. The beautiful artwork, the board state constantly changing. You know, you look at all the popular ones. I mean, Kemet's got that interesting mechanic where you move across the board with an individual move with either teleporting or 2 moves. You got Blood Rage where the combat, you know, is kind of, there are not too many spaces on the board. A lot of the most popular games, especially ones that I own, they kind of address this issue that old school combat games couldn't really get around. You know, they had a lot of spots on the board. People could stay to themselves and choose their fights and build up. This is very nice because with the board state constantly changing, there's no, you know, building up in one spot then sprawling out and crushing everyone. So you're consistently getting combat. So again, it's very straightforward. I've played 5 games and 7 different players got to play, and even my non-gamer friends here, they picked it up pretty straightforward. You know, they haven't had too much background in combat games, and seeing this one, you could tell that he's trying to keep it so that it's easy to play, easy to learn, and then it has some depth for replayability, and you can choose the different strategies. And with the dice, it's always fun to see how things go. You could have combat where, you know, the unexpected player wins, and it definitely keeps you on your toes. So the board, while big and the table hog, it's really immerses you in. With the tiles, they're all uniquely shaped. It wraps around. It just has that awesome table presence and feel. And even though my version had the meeples, these miniatures, very excited to see how that turns out. They look pretty nice. You know, he's got the tiles, which, you know, mine don't have the gel in the back, but he advertised even in the old original campaign that they're going to have gel backing, so they're not going to slide. There's definitely some sliding issues with this copy, and you could tell that he's trying to look into it and address it. So that's basically the positives. So, like, you know, switching over to a few of the cons here. The tiles, again, without that gel, again, I don't have that, you know, final version. They do slide a little bit, especially with you consistently touching the board. One of my earlier thoughts, which actually isn't a con anymore, I want to touch on, is that earlier versions had longer player turns with some downtime. It gave him some suggestions, and he actually tried some things, and he came up with this new action card system, and they had quick, snappy turns, which is very fun, and it keeps you engaged. Play goes around the table consistently. It's just a lot of fun. You know, I don't have too many other things to say here. You have to consider for yourself the cost. I mean, nowadays Kickstarters are obviously pretty up there, but you know, he's got I think at a good price point with the miniatures. I think the prices that, you know, he said he's looking to aim for here is definitely, you're getting a good value, I'd say. So I think, you know, it's worth checking out the campaign, deciding what you think yourself. I'm hoping that, you know, you could tell how much time and effort and revisions and just the development that's gone into this. The action cards was kind of the new latest revision that I've seen, and it's definitely a lot of fun. I mean, five plays of it gives you a good example of what you're getting into here, and it's a good afternoon or evening game with your friends, 3-4 players, very nice. I think you could also play it 2, although, you know, I tried it a little bit 2 players, and I thought it was pretty fun. Essentially, you probably want to downsize the board. Like what I suggested for 3 players was taking off the top row so it's a little bit more tight, and then in 2 players I'd also take off the bottom, basically row of the board. Just remove those cards and tiles so that they don't come up. And it plays very compact and fun. That's kind of what he kind of mentions in the rulebook, is that it's really up to you what style game you're looking for. I mean, he gives you some examples, but even the setup, he recommends some, you know, ranges for what different type of game you want to see, with how many mountains, how many sea tiles. So you can really choose with the setup what kind of game you're looking for. So I found what I kind of like, and yeah, it's definitely a game that I would strongly consider, you know, recommending and checking out in Kickstarter. hopefully we'll see it soon. All right, thank you.